let's dispel the myth, right? That moving in-house means that it's more, it's going to be more slack.
It's not not at all.
Not at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're in-house now.
Yes, I am. I'm at SQ, Singapore Airlines, and I've been there for about 7 years now. So it's been quite a while in-house as well.
Time really flies, right?
Yeah, it really does. Yeah.
I feel like, I mean, I've been with P&G for about 8.5 years now, and it actually does not feel like that at all.
How did you find it?
I'd say it was a rite of passage. You know, it was, there were ups and downs. You know, we had our moments. I remember during the time that we were sort of new to the profession, there was the huge Lehman Brothers collapse, and you know, I was doing corporate law at that time, so it was virtually quiet. There was nothing going on. But you know, there were times where we had to spend, you know, nights in the office, long hours. You know, and I guess it's a rite of passage for most young lawyers, right? Yeah. Was that your experience as well?
I don't miss the nights in the office. I have to confess. Yeah, and I think when we were all starting out, we were all terrified lah. I don't know about you, but I was terrified. I mean, everything was new, and you feel so unprepared because work was so different from law school was. Yeah. So I think we were all just trying to learn as much as we could and make as few mistakes as possible.
Oh yeah, the mistakes. Well, but also there was a very nice sense of camaraderie, right, amongst the pupils and you know, the folks in your year.
Yeah.
Sort of friendships forged through fire, right? Yeah. You stay late and you're there in, you know, almost misery with each other.
You go for dinner together, then you come back,
and then you come back
go
to
for
work.
supper together.
Yeah. So I mean, I do miss those, you know, those days. And but like you said, the overnights in the office, I definitely cannot do that anymore.
Yeah. But I thought my experience in practice was great. I mean, the people were great. I was very lucky to have very patient and supportive bosses and seniors.
Yeah.
So, you know, you ask a lot of stupid questions, but they would take the time to explain things to you patiently, and it was invaluable for a junior lawyer, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. And I remember that my first boss, Evelyn, she would always tell me, you know, it's a marathon. You need to know how to pace yourself, because you know, when you're a young lawyer, you know, you want to go all out, and you know, you're so eager to impress your bosses that you know, you're like, okay, I'm going to work late today, but you know, she always told me, you have to pace yourself. You know, you can't do it all at once. You're going to be working for the next 60, 70 years of your life.
So what made you think about moving in-house?
I think I really just wanted a change of environment.
Okay.
Right? And I know it sounds so cliche, right? But I really wanted to see what goes on behind the scenes.
Right.
We always, you know, as lawyers, you only see that little bit of that transaction, right? Or you get the instruction from the client and you don't understand really why you're doing something. You just, you're told to go in a certain direction and then you advise accordingly, right? So I really wanted to see that part of, you know, what goes on behind the scenes and what the commercial thought process is like. Yeah. How about yourself?
I think for me, it was the prospect of a more sustainable lifestyle. Yeah. Because practice, I mean, hours were long, right? And stresses were high. So I thought maybe moving in-house might be more sustainable in the long term. I have to say now, having been in-house for 7 years, it's not any less taxing than practice is. It's stressful in a different way. But I think generally we have more control over our time. Yeah. And like you said, it's been great learning more about the commercial side of things, looking at things from a wider strategic lens, as opposed to just looking at the legal issues. Yeah.
Did anything surprise you when you moved in-house?
I mean, I don't think there was anything surprising per se. It's just that it's a different environment. Yeah, you know, when you move in-house, all the work that you do really revolves around that one company, that one industry. It's very different from practice when I was doing Gen Lit. you know, you would get different clients, different matters all the time. And, you know, if you didn't like a particular matter, it's okay, deal with it. And then, you know, another one will come along soon enough.
Yeah.
But in-house, if you don't really like the company or the industry, and you get bored of the work, then, you know, you're going to be stuck with that same type of work for the rest of your time there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought that was a very important part about, you know, the whole thought process about moving in-house. Yeah, like where you go. You need to find an industry that you're interested in, a company that you believe in, or you know, whose values align with yours.
Yeah, it's very true. I think you need to find a company that has values that resonate with yours, right? Because otherwise you're just going to be in there and you're miserable every day, and you don't agree with what the bosses are telling you to do, and you know, stuff like that. So I think that's actually really important.
Yeah, completely agree.
I was very surprised actually at the level of autonomy that they give you, right? Because in the firm, you sort of you know, you're always accompanying a partner, you know, up until I guess you make partner or very senior associate or something like that, right? And there's always that safety net, right? Somebody's always looking out, you know, for your mistakes and marking up and things like that. I remember on my first day at work at P&G, my then boss, he basically, you know, took me into a meeting and he said, "Oh, okay, this is our new lawyer. This is May. Yep, she's the expert here. Listen to her." And I was like, okay, pretend to be cool about it. And then you know, you just dish out the advice, and that was the way it has been, you know, throughout my entire, you know, 8.5 years in P&G. Well, you have complete autonomy over what you want to do for you set, you know, your goals for the year, and you decide what's important to you. You create your own projects. You know, if you don't see any work that's apparent, you go and find something to do. You know, you make it your own. But you know, along with that comes a very huge sense of responsibility, right? You have to take ownership and feel like, yes, this is my business, right? And if anything goes wrong with it, it's on me, right? And you have to have that, you know, sense of responsibility there, I feel.
No, so actually, this is why I feel you should only move in-house after you've done some years in practice.
Agree.
Yeah, it's precisely because you have that level of autonomy, that level of responsibility, and no one's watching over your work anymore, right?
Correct.
So after you've had that training and practice, you know, the years of drilling and honing your skills, I think it makes it a lot easier to transition in-house.
Yeah.
When you're still starting out, trying to find your feet, and then suddenly you're plonked into a whole new in-house environment, I think you'll find it a bit more difficult.
Yeah,
for
sure. And I think also the foundation that you get, right, as a lawyer, where do you look for the information that you need? Right, because in-house you're not going to have a whole library of you know, people churning out knowledge articles for you. It's you're on your own, right? Basically, and then you try and call up friends to try and figure out.
No LawNet subscription.
But you can get your company to pay for it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Squeeze it out of the budget.
So, you know, what kind of advice would you give to, you know, someone who is thinking about moving in-house?
I think first off, think about why you are considering the move. Yeah, I mean, there could be various motivations, but you know, if it's because you don't like the work, or you don't like the hours, or you don't like the people, you know, the solution may not well be moving in-house. It could be moving to a different firm, a different practice area. Yeah, you're going to have, you know, people problems everywhere if that's your issue as well. So I think it's important to carefully think about what your motivations are for moving in-house. And then when you do think about moving, when you do decide that you want to move in-house, it's about finding the right fit.
I think what I've found also is that you need to be quite agile in the way you think, right? And the way that an in-house lawyer would give advice is quite different from the way a private practice lawyer would give advice, right?
Absolutely.
And often I find even when we do consult externally, we have to take that advice and digest it and apply a commercial mind to it and think, okay, as a business person, would you make this move, knowing the values that we have in the company, right? And you have to be quite agile, right? You have to know how to put on different hats and adapt accordingly to the situation. So I think you also have to ask yourself, would you be able to be that adaptable to those situations?
Yeah. Because no one's going to be reading 20-page memos, right?
No.
Your client in-house is going to be asking you can or cannot.
Yes or no, that's it.
Yes or no. And that's really where your analysis lies. You have to believe in your analysis and know that you are giving the correct answer when you answer that yes or no.
Yeah. And often you really only have 2 or 3 minutes to tell your GM why, you are going yes or going for no, right? You don't have that time, and they don't have that time. They don't want to listen to it at all. Yeah.
No, and they don't want to hear what the possible legal arguments are. They want to know, okay, bearing in mind the legal landscape, the laws we have to comply with, and risk mitigation. What is the best way forward?
Yeah.
So you need to think of effective solutions that will get the business where it wants to go, while complying with the applicable laws and mitigating risk.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you're right, it's a lot of hats that you're putting on all at the same time.
Yeah.
And I find that stakeholder management is very important.
Yes.
It's the same in practice as well, frankly. You need to know how to be able to manage your client.
Yeah.
You could be the smartest person in the room or like the one with the best legal argument, but if your client doesn't trust you, then it's not going to get you very far.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing in-house. If your business units don't think of you as a strategic partner, but they just think of you as a rubber stamper, then it's difficult as well.
Yeah, or worse, they think of you as saying no to everything, right?
Yes.
I think that's absolute worst, because then they don't even want to look at you. They rather not have you in the room at all.
Yes, it's like, I don't want to go to legal, they're just going to say no.
Exactly, yeah. But I completely agree.
Do you work with external counsel a lot?
I think in my current role, not so much in Singapore, a lot of it in jurisdictions like Japan and Korea. I do, a little bit of advertising law, right? Which is not a huge thing in this area of the world, but it is, the potential fines in Japan and Korea can be, huge, right? So we do engage counsel there, whenever we want to put out advertising that's particularly risky and things like that. But generally in those regions, How about yourself?
So we do work with external counsels quite a fair bit, primarily because we're the sole legal team. So we support global ops, right, and global commercial business units. And of course, it's not always easy to be familiar with the laws and the legal framework in other jurisdictions. So that's really where we rely on our network of trusted foreign counsels. And it's great because you pick up the phone, you drop an email, and you can rely on them to give you the prompt support that you need.
So what are some of the toughest challenges you found working, and advising on matters outside of your jurisdiction, Singapore, I guess?
I think for me, it's not having the experience working with the local regulators and authorities on the ground, because it's very easy to find out what the legal framework is in a particular jurisdiction, but not knowing how things are done on the ground, not knowing whether there are cultural sensitivities which may affect how the process works. I think all these are very challenging. And that's really where you need to rely on your foreign counsels who would have experience on the ground and the expertise of your colleagues as well in the local offices.
Likewise, I think, because we're fairly big and we do have counsels on the ground in most of the countries that we operate in. But where we don't, I think what I've found is sometimes language is a huge barrier, right? Because if you can't, read it, then you can't even understand it, right? And I guess also it's sometimes trying to figure out the intricacies in the laws in the other jurisdictions where coming from Singapore, where it's a very uniform jurisdiction, you don't have your different provinces or different federal laws and things like that. It's it's quite sometimes can be quite confusing, right?
Yeah, it's true. And you're right. I mean, you know, when you're reading the various statutes in foreign languages, and you try and use Google Translate, but it's not always the most accurate translation.
And I do also tend to rely quite a bit, you know, on external legal updates, right?
Yes.
And you know, that's where platforms like LawNet Asian Insights comes in very handy, right? Because you get you don't have the time, right? Let's face it, we don't have the time to chase down and check, you know, are there updates in this jurisdiction, you know, what are changes in law, what's the latest case that's come in that might affect your position that you're taking. So these updates, you know, have been super, you know, handy for us as well.
It's great having a repository that you can just you know, access, and you know that you're going to find all the latest legal developments across various subject areas. It's a very handy reference tool.